Welcome to Real World Peaceful Parenting, a podcast for parents that are tired of yelling, threatening, and punishing their kids. Join mom and master certified parent coach Lisa Smith as she gives you actionable, step-by-step strategies that'll help you transform your household from chaos to cooperation. Let's dive in.
Welcome to today's episode. I am super excited. I know I say this every week. You guys probably laugh at me, but I'm super excited to be here with you today because I have a special guest, a triple special guest, whipped cream and nuts and a cherry on top. Today, I am joined by Emily Wardrop. Emily is a Hive member. I've known her a long time, and she is an incredible member of our community, the Hive. She's also the mother of 5 children, 2 with type 1 diabetes, and she's a parent coach who works with parents of children who have type 1 diabetes and helps guide them through the process. She does amazing work in this world. And Emily and I are going to have a robust conversation today that you will benefit from. We're going to talk about identity. Now, don't roll your eyes at me. Stay here with me for a moment. It has a point, I promise, and it's helpful. One of the things that we've been talking about inside the Hive is our identity as humans, how we identify ourselves, and not so much in the front of our brain, but way, way, way in the back of our brain. So my question to you is, what do you tell yourself about your parenting, about your image, your role, what you're capable of? And let me explain why this matters before I welcome Emily. This matters because 2024 is the year of self-regulation, right? We declared that and we're working on it. Every episode so far since the beginning of the year is all centered around how to stay regulated. And one of the things I know for sure is that when identity and goals are in conflict, identity wins. So an example might be if you have a goal of not yelling or snapping at your kids, right? That's your goal. I don't want to yell at my kids anymore. I don't want to be resentful and angry and aggressive all the time. But way in the back of your mind, you think I'm a terrible parent, or this is never going to work, or my kids only listen if I yell. Then when the goal of not yelling matches the identity of my kids only listen when I yell, you're going to yell. Because when identity and goals are in conflict, identity wins. So one of the exercises we've done inside the Hive is to get really honest and clear about our identity. And this was a topic that really spoke to Emily. And we had just an incredible conversation and decided to hit pause and bring it over here so you all could listen in as we continue this conversation about identity and goals. So with that in mind, let me say welcome, Emily. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
So mother of 5, tell us how old your kids are.
The oldest is 9 and the youngest is 2.
All right. So you got your hands full.
Yeah, people say that all the time. I'm like, well, then grab somebody and help out.
I'll be right over with dinner and I'll do all your laundry.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with laundry.
Yeah, I actually have a good system for laundry.
Yeah, me too. I could teach a course on laundry that would change everybody's life.
Do it.
Right? I should probably do a podcast about how to do laundry effectively.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you mind if I just take you kind of through my history with identity? Well, with thought work, with all the
that was going to be my first question. Let's dig in and tell me what identity means to you. Tell me the awakening you've had with regard to it.
Okay. So we're going to go back a little bit further than that. So 2017-ish, I think, is when I found life coaching. So I found thought work is what I call it, right? So when I found out where my feelings come from, that feelings come from thoughts, was my first mind blown moment, right?
Right.
Because I thought that feelings came from my husband or from the kid or the baby won't sleep or the baby's whining and that's why I'm annoyed. It was all things outside of my control. And so once I got empowered with knowing that it's my own thoughts that are causing my feelings and that I can actually control that, then that was really fun for a few years until it wasn't anymore. Because the first thing you do actually when you find out that your thoughts create your feelings is you blame yourself now. Instead of blaming husband or baby, it's my fault that I feel annoyed, frustrated, irritated all day long, right? And so I used the tools against myself for a while, which wasn't that fun. But then once I added some self-compassion in there, all of those things, that was helpful. And then in the heat of the moment, I still just was like, no, it's a knee-jerk reaction. Like, I can't think something different in the heat of the moment. So then I started doing more feeling work, right? So the thought work was helpful. Then it's feeling work. Okay, in the heat of the moment, I just have to feel my feelings. How the heck do I do that? So I was kind of learning about that. The identity piece is what really got like the most momentum for me, because Lisa, I can't tell you how many parents I've heard be coached and their brains make it mean that they're a terrible mom. I don't know why we skip to terrible. That's a word we all use.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just had it with people making it mean that they're a terrible mom. And that's why I wanted to become a coach, because I'm like, I want every mom in this world to believe that they are a good mom, because we're making it mean that we're a terrible mom. Like, that's the identity we're taking on. And when I realized that like I had this hardcore identity that I'm just an impatient person. I've been working on this my whole life, like I've always been impatient, and that's just who I am. And of course, I lose my shiz with these kids all day long because I'm just an impatient person, right?
So when you're striving to be a patient parent, that's the goal. And there's not enough thought work in the world to overcome the identity, which is a belief that we've ingrained or we've accepted as a fact, right? It's like, oh no, you don't understand. That's how, when I know we're onto the identity. When the client says to me, you don't understand, I'm just an impatient person. Yeah. Oh no, I understand. I understand you have the belief. You have the identity that you're impatient, right? And if, kids come home from school, you've got 5 kids, they all want your attention at once. And you're white knuckling it to be calm. And now just a minute, you wait a second, you take your turn. It's your turn. You go ahead, pause. But in the back of your mind, the identity is, I'm an impatient human. So then there's an explosion. Yeah,
exactly. And it doesn't help that everyone else has bought into my story. Like, not to name any names, but my husband, right, would like, if I'm trying to believe something new, that I'm not an impatient human, I'm just a human, right. I am good at who I am, my identity, and I'm also a human. And so I make mistakes, and I feel impatient sometimes. That's where I changed it when I was doing identity work, is I'm identifying as feelings that I feel. I am not annoyed. Like, there's no such thing as annoyed. Like, there's no noids in this world. Right. There's just people who feel annoyed, and that's okay. Like, I can feel annoyed. I can feel impatient, but I am good. And anyway.
I think we teach people how to treat us.
Right.
Right. So if we're going around informing people that we're an impatient person.
Yeah.
Then they take on the image of the identity that we've trained them on.
Yeah. And then we blame them for it. So again, back to empowered, like, it's my job to believe my new identity, not to wait for somebody else to give me a new identity and continue to remind myself until I believe it. Like, I have to do that work myself.
And I love that you said that, Emily. Let's talk about this for a second, because this is powerful. And listener, I want you to hear this. So let me just slow down and say this. Not only is it your job to believe the new identity for yourself, it is your job to believe it long before you have any evidence.
Yes.
Right? So it's that whole brainwashing thing that I talk about. You have to believe it, because the mind looks for evidence to prove the thoughts are true. So if your identity is, I'm an impatient person, all day long, your mind looks for evidence that you're impatient, and it skips over all the patient moments. Yep. Waiting for me to get on the Zoom. I was 2 minutes late. You might have been just sitting there journaling or looking out the window, totally patient, but your brain skips over that if you believe you're impatient. So the mind looks for evidence to prove the thoughts are true. So if you believe I'm impatient, your mind finds evidence. And if you believe I'm a patient person, or I'm human who occasionally feels impatient, then your brain will feed you evidence to support that as well. Right? So you have to believe it before you have any proof.
Yeah. And so that'll create cognitive dissonance, right? Because your brain is convinced that you're impatient, but you're trying to brainwash yourself into a new thought. And so you have to just kind of live in that dissonance for a while until you accumulate enough evidence for your new story. And just consciously, always intentionally reminding myself over and over and over of the new identity.
Yeah. So the assignment is for everyone listening is to sit down and take 10 minutes and write out your identity, one word answers on a piece of paper, and just start digging a deeper, 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 deeper. It's like an onion with lots of layers. Because for many of us, I think our identity is hidden from us or it's deep in there. And it's a hard thing to admit. It's a hard thing to want to dig into. But if you can get to what's floating in the back there and pull it out and look at it, you can ask yourself, does this identity serve me? Right? And then you can question it. Is it true? Is it really true? Do I want to believe this? You have free will. You get to believe about yourself anything you want to believe. Let me say that again. You get to believe about yourself anything you want to believe. So if what you're believing isn't helpful to you, to your children, to the relationship as a parent, then pick something else, slightly better. As Emily said, she went from everybody knows I'm just an impatient person to I'm a human who's occasionally impatient.
Yeah. Who feels impatient sometimes.
Feels impatient sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is the work to do, is not just let every day roll by, but really dig into what's the identity. So Emily, as you started to do that work, what did you notice in your parenting, in your experiences?
I finally saw like the improvement that I've been looking for forever. Because the identity that I was trying to believe was just that I'm a good mom. And literally like just believing, because here's the thing. Speaking of the evidence that we're accumulating, who's to say whether I'm impatient or not? There's no blood test to tell you. It's not a fact. It's a thought no matter what. And so I can think that I'm a good mom, whether I yelled at my kids, whether I forgot the diapers in the diaper bag, whether they had too much screen time today, whether they ate too much sugar, whether their blood sugar levels are all over the charts, and I am still a good mom. So then I showed up as a good mom. What you believe, you achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I believed I was a good mom. Yeah. Then all of a sudden I was a good mom. Like when I was making it mean I don't brush my kids' hair, that makes me a bad mom. Then I just show up as the worst mom because their hair's a mess and then I'm a mess about it. But when I was like, so what? I don't brush their hair and I am a good mom. Then at least I am nice to them,
Yeah.
And then I accumulate that evidence of whatever it is. So really the first step is to dig down and figure out what that even means. What is a good mom? We're just on a treadmill with no definition that we're not getting anywhere because we don't even know what that means.
I like to say, I'm not a good or bad parent. I'm Malcolm's parent. And I just like to stay in a neutral place because when you're assigning it a moral value, it opens the door for so much plus or minus. I'm in the good category, I'm in the bad category. And then it influences what you want from your kids, because for a lot of us to feel like a good parent, we need a certain response from our children. And maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're feeling impatient in the moment. Maybe they're feeling like they need some attention. Maybe they're feeling not their absolute best in that moment. So really, I love just saying we're parents doing the best we can.
Yeah. I actually can't handle that phrase either, because my dad used to ask me that, on report card day. Well, did you do your best? I'm like, no, of course not. I could always do better. And so that's how I always feel about this parenting gig too. I'm not doing my best. I could always do better. That brings up the other thing I want to talk about with identities is how we identify our kids, because we do the same thing to them. Like you were just saying, we identify that they're a good kid or a bad kid by their behavior.
I don't, but some.
Right. I know. Yeah. Our kids' identities, once we believe the story that they are just hokey, they just take forever to put on their shoes, then there's no chance that they're ever going to be able to put on their shoes fast enough for us to get out the door, because we just believe that identity about them. So basically, any thought we have is an identity. Like you said, our identities are our beliefs, right? And our beliefs are our thoughts that we keep on thinking.
Yeah.
That's why this whole coaching and thought work thing is so important, because we have to get awareness of what we're thinking, believing, and making true. And then deciding on purpose what we want to be true.
Well, and also, I think that what happens is we get an identity for our children. He's so lazy. She's so loud. She's so impatient. She's so dramatic. Or he's not interested in school, or he's a terrible student, or he can't read. And then we vocalize it so much to our children that then it becomes their identity.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is really something to be mindful of as a parent, is that we are, Peggy O'Mara says it so well, our outer voice becomes their inner voice. And then that becomes their identity. And I know from personal experience, you know, the identity I was given as a child, literally given by people, was not positive. And it took me years to shed that identity, years to get rid of I was big and loud and clumsy and awkward and, you know, not graceful and too much. That was really the biggest identity I grew with. Lisa, you're just too much. You're just too much all the time. You're too much. I mean, and as an adult, you think about that. What does it even mean to be too much?
Right.
Right? I mean, who's too much?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is a really important, when we talk about identity, it is really important that we examine our identity as the parent and then the identity we're attempting to assign to our children, because it can really shape how they see themselves and how they see the world. And it can cause suffering that's not necessary, right? Just because you are pokey at putting your shoes on, to use your words, doesn't make you lazy, right? And if all of a sudden that becomes the identity and that is communicated over 18 years, then you have a kid going out into the world identifying as lazy. And, you know, here's the other thing we should probably talk about. Most of these things don't even really mean anything. Like, what does it mean to be lazy?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I've laid on the couch for 4 or 5 hours before reading a book or zoning out to something, you know, on Netflix or Hulu. Does that mean I was lazy? Maybe I had a lazy few hours, but it doesn't make me intrinsically lazy.
Yeah.
It's not a character problem, right?
Yeah. So our outward voice is their inward voice. It's not even just our outward voice. Like, they're picking up what we're putting down, even if we're good at hiding it, you know? Some of us are outward processors. So the things I think I do actually say, but a lot of people don't do that. So my dad always said, I need to learn how to relax. You need to learn to relax, which is really funny because that's like literally what I'm doing, like learning meditation and even like all this life coaching tools and everything. It's all to kind of help me learn how to relax because I've taken on that identity my whole life. And again, what's it even mean? Like, it's all very relative. And that actually brings me to my last mind-blown thing. Since the identity, I'm still kind of back on no, my feelings are knee-jerk. Like, they literally are. Like, okay, so what? Like, supposedly my thoughts create my feelings. So I'm going to think some things intentionally. I have all these notebooks full of coaching notes, you know, my self-coaching. My coach helped me find these fun thoughts. In the heat of the moment, nope, still don't have access to those thoughts. So hopefully you're going to start delving into this in the podcast coming up soon, because that's what we're doing a lot in this self-regulation year is nervous system work.
Yes.
I went from thought work to feeling work to nervous system. Your nervous system hijacks all the work you're doing in your brain and body and has a mind of its own.
It's funny. I have an episode coming up about this, and it's really understanding that whole fight or flight. And I think that what happens is so often, again, back to identity, our kids start storming, or kids, right? Maybe all your kids are talking at once, or two of them are fighting while one's asking for milk and the other's sitting on the floor crying. And that feels intolerable to us.
Yep.
Right? And so our central nervous system interprets it as we're going to die. And so the motivational triad takes over and wants to push us towards pleasure, away from pain, and be efficient. And so for a lot of us, we're raised in yelling households. We think the parachute out of that misery is to start yelling or storming alongside our children or having a reaction that we aren't proud of later. And it all ties back to the central nervous system and being in fight or flight and feeling like we're in danger. And so one of the most effective tools I know, and I did this myself when I first transitioned into peaceful parenting, is to just say to myself, I am safe. I would put my hand on my heart and I would say, I am safe. I needed to convince my nervous system that the chaos, the cacophony around me did not mean I was going to die.
Yeah.
right? I didn't like it. It was loud. I still don't like loud noises to this day, which is ironic because I have such a loud voice. I was over at a Super Bowl party last night and they had like 2 TVs on and there were tons of people there and everybody was talking at once over the commercials, which seemed to go up in volume, and a couple times I had to go to the bathroom and wash my hands to regulate myself because it's a lot for me.
Yeah.
But I remember when Malcolm was little and he would start storming, one of the first tools I noticed that was a change agent was to just put my hand on my heart and say, I am safe. I am safe. And I could convince my nervous system that although it was loud and noisy, I wasn't going to die from the noise.
Yeah.
And it really helps. And then I could get to the thoughts that then created the feeling I wanted to have. But if the central nervous system feels unsafe, all the thoughts in the world are, and if you think about this, I know we talked about this, Emily, but for the listeners, that's what the central nervous system is designed to do, right? I mean, if we're down a dark alley at 2 a.m., coming home from a concert and we're laughing and giggling and having a good time, and we hear the noise of multiple pairs of boots behind us, our central nervous system is designed for you and I to snap to and run like heck in the other direction. Mm-hmm. And so our central nervous system is doing what it was designed to do. The thing is that we have to let it know that our children storming is not our life in danger and that it can stay regulated and calm. And then we can work with our thoughts and our feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Because all that pretty little thought work we did, we have no access to that when our brains and bodies are hijacked by our nervous system.
Yeah.
But this is the hope that you're giving us this year, that we can reprogram our nervous system.
Yes.
Just like we can reprogram our brains and our bodies, we can reprogram our nervous system to not be so sensitive to every little whine. Because that was the identity we worked on too, is that I can't handle the whining.
Yes.
There's a lot of whining around here. And I thought that the babies would grow out of it. So I didn't have to work on this anymore. No, at all ages, they still whine.
Oh,
and
girl.
I still can't handle it.
I got a 19-year-old that doesn't want me to say this, but he whines on occasion.
I whine all day long. I get it in my models. I can see that I'm the one whining and whining about them whining and all the things, right? So now, as soon as I feel myself going into that, then I just remind myself I am safe. I don't have to, what was that thought I was going to think? Oh yeah, she can pitch a fit and I don't have to. I have no access to any of that until I calm myself. I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And then guess what? I can handle the whining. Yeah. But I couldn't when I was trying to convince my brain I can handle the whining while I'm in fight or flight.
Yes.
Or freeze or fawn.
Oh, that's so powerful. Yes. Yes. I mean, I want every parent in the world, every caregiver, every grandparent, even grandparents who occasionally drop in and help take care of their grandchildren. Mm-hmm. It's that central nervous system that is hijacking you into fight or flight or freeze.
Yeah.
But I think the yelling is mostly fight or flight.
Yeah.
And just creating a system, let's say, a reproducible mechanism that assures your central nervous system that you are safe. I've encouraged people to tap before. Those of you that know about tapping, you can tap your wrist or tap right above your breastbone or tap your forehead or your chin. I found it helpful to just put my hand on my heart. Just moving my hand to my heart cues me to say, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. You can, clap your hands. You can do a big stretch. You can take a big deep breath. And then you can access the thoughts. And again, I think, Emily, you beautifully illustrated, Emily was walking around with the thought, I can't handle the whining. Now imagine having 5 kids, 9 and under, 7 people in a home, there's whining all the time, right?
Can't handle my own whining, can't handle my husband's whining. It's a lot of whining. Yeah.
And if you were thinking, I love that you said this, okay, I just have to tolerate the whining until the youngest kid crosses this threshold and then all whining will stop.
Right.
Right. I mean, so that wasn't effective. But yes, I can handle the whining. I can get myself out of fight or flight, step 1. I can totally handle the whining by all of us, myself included. What a shift in identity as a parent.
Yeah.
Which then encouraged, I'm a good mom, even if their hair is not combed perfectly or combed at all, which then you started seeing evidence that I can get out of fight or flight. I can handle the whining and I am a good mom. And then I bet there was quite a shift in the energy in the household.
For sure. Yeah, because even as I learned about the nervous system things, I talked to my siblings and I'm like, so why am I so sensitive? Everybody had the same, childhood I did. Oh, poor me with these childhood wounds that I've been like trying to, do all my inner child work. I'm like, how come you guys don't have inner child work to do, And so again, do you hear the identity in that like I'm the sensitive one, my nervous system, because that's the first thing you learn in trauma is that like there's no such thing as a traumatic experience. There's just the way your nervous system handled it. So I learned that and I'm like, oh, okay, I have this sensitive nervous system. Like that's an identity, right? And and my mom always said a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing because as soon as I learn about something, I think I have it, right? And
stay off the internet.
Right? Seriously though. So anyway, that tool, I've just shared it with everyone I can. Now I am safe. I am safe. My kid wants a balloon. We're out of balloons. Sorry. Like I don't have to go buy balloons because grandparents, maybe not fight or flight. They're not screaming at the kids, but they're fawning like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, your kids are upset. Let me get them some more ice cream. No, they don't need ice cream. They just need to be upset. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Right?
Yes.
So all the people pleasing, like it's all part of the nervous system work. And so that's
yes. I think that the swing between dominant and permissive parenting often is I'm uncomfortable because my kid is having emotions. I don't know how to stand and witness the emotions. I need this to go away. I'm either going to permiss it or dominate it to try to make it stop right now. It's back to that fight or flight and motivational triad. I want to run towards pleasure, which, in some instances is just silence. I just need my kid to stop crying. Mm-hmm. I want to run away from pain. I don't know how to tolerate this. I don't know how to stand here. I think that my kid is not supposed to be storming. So now I feel like a bad parent and efficient. Well, let's just go get the balloon or the ice cream. If I give him the ice cream, it's a trifecta. It's efficient. I'm going to be out of pain. They're going to stop whining. So there's pleasure, pain avoidance, and efficiency.
Except that they don't stop whining. So then you go into, these ungrateful brats, like they're having ice cream for dinner and they're still whining. What is their deal? Yeah.
Right.
So we drop all of that when we just know that we're all just humans being humans. We all have nervous systems.
I spend a few minutes every morning, a scrap of paper, writing out my identity and just what are the thoughts that are floating through my head that day? I am what? And then I look at it. And the pieces that I write down that I like, I keep. And the pieces I don't like, I'm like, well, let's work on that. That sure as heck isn't serving you.
Yeah.
I think it's a good exercise. I want to recommend it to everybody listening. I'm sure you do something similar.
Well, because it's happening whether you write it down or not.
Exactly.
Those thoughts that you got awareness of are driving your day.
That's right.
But without the awareness, we're just like, what is wrong with me? What's going on? Oh, I'm just so grumpy today.
Yeah.
But it's because of that story running.
Yeah. So you might as well pull it from the way back recesses of the brain to the front of the brain and then look at it. Do I like it? I mean, a lot of what I say to myself, I like. Mm-hmm. It's productive. It serves me. And then there are the thoughts that don't. And like you're saying, if they're going to be there, you might as well get them out and identify them. And if you don't like them, then find something you do like, right? I'm not impatient. I feel impatient at times.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. We don't want to all be patient all the time.
Things. Yeah. Yeah. And something else you just said. So when you go from permissive to dominant, the middle, right, is what we're trying to do in peaceful parenting.
Yes.
And so literally, like when our nervous systems are charged up like that and we're in fight or flight, so we're going between permissive and dominant. I hear that in your coaching sessions in the Hive a lot. People always say that. Like I go from being permissive to dominant, and it's very hard to do. Mm-hmm. Like it's hard to find balance in all things. Like moderation is just a hard thing for humans, right? But the goal of what we're doing here and what we, do in the Hive and everything of peaceful means that we feel peaceful no matter what the chaos is going on around us.
Yes.
So it's not, we're trying to teach our kids how to learn how to behave. This is not like behavior modification classes for us, either like us or the kids, because our worth doesn't come from our works. Like whether we're good or not is not indicated by our actions or our kids' actions. What we want is to feel peaceful and to parent peacefully. And the way you get to that is by calming yourself, not getting them to behave.
That's why it's I am peaceful parent and not the peaceful kid. We're not here to manipulate. And when you do this work, it doesn't automatically mean you're going to get well-behaved, good kids. I mean, I think all kids are good. So I'm using parents' words.
Yeah.
Peaceful parenting is I'm going to learn how to regulate myself so that I can stay regulated when my kid storms, and I can offer my kid co-regulation so that they can come alongside me. Because here's the honest truth. You're either offering your kids co-dysregulation or co-regulation. Those are the only two options. There's nothing else. So you're regulated and they can come next to you and regulate, or you're dysregulated and you're going to amp up their dysregulation. There's no in between.
Yeah.
And so peaceful parenting is learning how to regulate so they can come alongside and co-regulate, and then at some point regulate themselves. And I see this, I have a 19-year-old and he's had a challenging first year in college in the best of ways. And he has done a pretty good job above all else regulating himself when he's met challenges. And it's really been a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah. And it's literally like your podcast a few weeks ago. It's all about modeling, that they do what we do, not what we say. So we want them to learn how to regulate. So we're like, oh, what are these mindfulness tools I just learned? Oh, here, they teach them some cute ones at school, like, oh, your soup is hot, so smell it. Oops, too hot, blow it. Like they're teaching them tools to like breathe and things. But when your kid is dysregulated, trying to get them to regulate themselves so that you feel better, it doesn't work. No. You both just explode, right? Yeah. And so we have to go first. And it's the most fun thing ever to watch my kids do it. Not because I taught them how, because they've seen me do it. Mm-hmm. When they stop and they breathe or they apologize, because I for sure have not taught my kids how to apologize. You better apologize for that, but I do a lot of apologizing to them. And so they learn these tools through us, through our impatience, through our imperfections, right? Then they're learning how to be a human in this world, because there's no perfect parents. That's not the goal. I love how you always talk about that. It's a path. It's not perfection. It's
progress. Not
because we just mess up over and over and over all the time.
I mean, that's the human experience.
And that's how you build muscle. You got to break it to build it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
we beat ourselves up for our imperfections way too much. Like that is not useful at all.
Not useful at all. And I would say, I've said this probably 10,000 times and I'll say it 10,000 more. Our kids don't do what we say. They do what we do. Mm-hmm. So if you're befuddled as to why your kids are doing what they're doing, become the watcher of yourself while you're parenting.
Yeah.
And, and that can be that I say that to use that as a tool, not a weapon. So do not watch yourself and then use it as a weapon against yourself. Kids are good learners. So when you take on, if this identity work speaks to you today, then work on pulling out your identity. And as you begin to change and modify your identity into something that serves you, serves your children, serves your relationship, they will also take on that identity and they will learn that. Kids are great learners. Their brains are designed to learn and to study. And the number one platform they're studying is you at home. How does this family handle conflict? How does this family handle stress? How does this family handle disappointment? How does this family handle 5 people talking at once? And they're learning from us. So modeling is the tool that we teach with.
Yeah. And if we have no self-awareness, then we just need to look at our kids and they're perfect little mirrors.
Right.
Our next step to work on.
Yes. All right, Emily, this was fabulous. Thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom and your experience and your insight and the journey that you've been on, the power that identity has had in your parenting. It's been beautiful to ride shotgun with you and watch this evolve. I know you worked, I won't say hard, but you've been devoted to unraveling the inner child and really showing up for your family, breaking a generational cycle and showing up in a whole new way. And I know your children are benefiting from that. And tell the listener, if they want to learn more about the work you do with parents of children with type 1 diabetes, tell us where we can find you.
Well, my website is dropthewar.com. My last name is Wardrop. So we drop power struggles. We drop unuseful identities. We drop all the things we need to drop, right? I was going to say something about diabetes specifically with identity, because as soon as your child gets diagnosed, it's not like when they get sick and you go to the doctor and they have the flu and they just need fluids and rest and whatever. Like this is a forever diagnosis, and that can become an identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so my child has diabetes. Like, we just don't even talk about it like that. Like, it's just one more thing we have to deal with. But it's not like this huge identity that's taken over our lives and they can't live a normal life and things like that, because that's how people tend to take it unhelpfully. Anyway, so there's a lot of brain hacks that, because I've been so entrenched in coaching all these years, I felt like it really actually prepared me for the diagnosis. And then I just want to share those with other moms, which is why I do this. So dropthewar.com/top3 is a video I put together with 3 main brain hacks, but I get talking and there's way more than 3 in there.
Awesome.
And so there's a free resource for everybody, but then there's also Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all the things.
Sure.
Drop the War Life Coaches.
Yeah. So if you have someone in your life, a young human who has type 1 diabetes, go over to dropthewar.com, top 3, and just let Emily give you some food for thought. Let her challenge how you're thinking about this. It ties in so well with the identity, right? And, I'm a 9-year-old and I have teeth and I have diabetes and I have hair.
Yeah.
We want to neutralize this and really help people with type 1 diabetes live their fullest life, their best life.
Yeah. I find it really fun when people are surprised. People that I've known for a while, they're like, oh, wait, what? Your kids have diabetes? We just live normal. We don't live like it's some big deal. And it is a huge deal and upheavals your life at the beginning. But I want to give that hope that doesn't have to be the case forever.
Yes. And there's so many great tools out nowadays that have been a complete change maker in
for
helping
technology
normalize
and things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So that's where you find Emily. I will be back here next week with another episode. Emily, thank you for joining today. I know everybody really enjoyed hearing your journey, and thank you for being so willing to share. I appreciate you.
Lisa, I just got to tell you, when I first found you, you didn't have a podcast. And I was like, you need to do a podcast. And you were like, no, I have a blog. I'm like, a podcast, same thing as a blog. Just read your blog. And so it's been really fun to be on today because it's very full circle.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for the encouragement back then. And thank you for being here, sharing your journey. And if you want to have a journey like Emily's, if you want to be my next Emily on the podcast where you come on and talk about all the growth, or you just want to have the growth without talking about it, check us out over at The Hive. You can find out all the details and the invitation to join at thehivecoaching.com, TheHivecoaching, all together, thehivecoaching.com. Okay. Until we meet again, I'm wishing you peaceful parenting. Thank you so much for listening today. I want to personally invite you to head over to thepeacefulparent.com/welcome and sign up for my free Peaceful Parenting mini course. You'll find everything you need to get started on the path to peaceful parenting just waiting for you over there at www.thepeacefulparent.com/welcome. Can't wait for you to get started.
Thanks for listening to Real World Peaceful Parenting. If you want more info on how you can transform your parenting, visit thepeacefulparent.com. See you soon.